But another revolution, a quieter, subtler, more profound revolution, was occurring at the same time. It was a revolution that in some ways was so obvious that it was all but ignored. It was an untelevised revolution, a sea change in the collective consciousness of people in academia and in American society generally, brought about in part by the very presence of black studies on predominantly white campuses. Black studies did not accomplish this revolution alone, of course, but black studies programs became a focal point for a changing awareness of what a modern university needed to be. Debates still rage over the relative scholarly merits of black studies programs, but the question of whether black studies would be a part of the university was decided in a very short time. The first black studies department to emerge on a predominantly white college campus was established in 1968 at San Francisco State College. By 1973, 5 years later, at least 300 to 500 black studies departments and programs had been established. Some were strong, some were weak. Some thrived, some did not, depending on the long-term commitment of the institution. Much of the attention focused, naturally enough, on big-name schools like Cornell, Columbia, Harvard, or Michigan. But even much smaller schools, like CMU, felt the impact of the movement. When Central hired William B. Boyd as president in 1968, the university's trustees gave him a mandate for change. They hoped to avoid the turmoil of student protest and conflict that had already engulfed many other campuses, and they were looking to reshape the university's scholarly image. Boyd had been at Michigan State and Alma College early in his career, but he was coming to CMU from Berkeley, the epicenter of student protest, where he had been vice chancellor for student affairs. One of his early decisions was to hire as a consultant Robert A. Thornton, a recently retired African-American professor from San Francisco State, where that first black studies department was established. Thornton's role was to help infuse black studies into CMU's curriculum. CMU, like a majority of other American institutions, did not create a standalone department or program, but within months, several departments were designing and beginning to offer courses in African American history, literature, and culture. The very presence of black studies in academia reshaped the way scholars thought about their institutions and their scholarship. When I was defending my doctoral dissertation on this topic a few years ago, one of my committee members wondered aloud how much had really changed on American college campuses. He said he was teaching a course in American intellectual history, and that he was that week beginning a series of lectures on W.E.B. Du Bois and other African-American intellectuals. He noted, however, that all 30 of his students in his class were white. I replied that while that might be evidence that there had been relatively little demographic change within the university, it was at the same time evidence that there had been a significant change in awareness. In 1965, I said, it is likely that some other white professor was teaching another intellectual history course filled with 30 other white students. It was quite unlikely, however, that that professor spent much, if any, time exposing those students to the thoughts of Du Bois or other African American writers. That is what I call the untelevised revolution. It's possible to make too much of this transformation, but it is possible as well to make too little of it, and I think that is what has happened over the last 40 years. We have come to take cultural awareness for granted. We are so accustomed to having black studies and women's studies and Latino studies and Native American studies that we often overlook the significance. Because any student can graduate from college without taking a lot of such courses. We overlook the fact that almost no student can graduate without taking at least some of them. And we seldom think about the consequences. A large number of CMU's graduates go on to teach in K-12 school systems. How many of you are planning to do that? Significant number here. They take with them the education they have accumulated and share it with their students. How many of you, when you were in elementary school, were called upon each year to do some sort of Black History Month project? Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, Du Bois, whatever. How many of you did that, recall doing that? Look around. Quite a few of you did. I can tell you from personal experience that was a pretty rare occurrence for white public school students in the 1950s and 1960s. That's the untelevised revolution. Schools are one of the most important institutions we have for transmitting our social values to our children. For more than 2 generations now, our schools have been sharing with our children information and values that Black students of the 1960s were pressing educational institutions to take seriously for the first time. How has that changed America, the way Americans think about race? What part did that play in so many Americans, especially young Americans, finding it in themselves to look beyond our nation's traditions of race prejudice and helping in 2008 elect an African American president of the United States? I can't tell you for certain. I doubt that anyone can. But I believe it was considerable. And I believe the Black students who fought so hard for Black studies in the 1960s deserve to be recognized for their contribution to America. Thank you. I've probably droned on too long, but questions? Any questions anybody would like to ask? I have to answer. Yes, ma'am.
What kind of backlash, you see the backlash in Arizona with the ethnic studies?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think we're going to see any comparable kinds of things across the country, or is that just stemming out of that racified atmosphere?
I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen elsewhere. I mean, we do see and have been seeing other examples of changes in people trying to adjust curriculum. A student came in last week with something off the internet where apparently in Tennessee they were trying to rewrite the curriculum and textbooks to eliminate mentions of slavery in America, which is pretty breathtaking when you think about it. But there is a backlash. I mean, talking about a lot of these things is uncomfortable, and people don't like to be uncomfortable. There's a segment of the population that would rather sit in blissful ignorance than to honestly face the issues of our country's past. So we probably will see more effort. Yes, sir.
Do you think that being more proactive about these things would have a greater effect than the subtle, untelevised changes?
Well, I don't think it's an either or. I mean, I think one of the things that one of the notions that has come to me from looking at this is that the Black students who were most adamant about promoting Black studies, I can imagine some of them looking back even now and feeling disappointed on some levels that they didn't accomplish what they set out to do. But they accomplished something pretty dramatic at the same time. And so you don't stop making the efforts for big change. As you get older, you recognize that sometimes those efforts accumulate over time, and the real lasting change. If you look at Heron's poem called "The Revolution Will Not Be Televised," and I encourage all of you to read it, although you'll probably be confused by a lot of the pop culture references of the day. That poem worked on a couple of levels. On the one hand, it was a satirical criticism of the media that tended to focus on what Heron clearly thought was trivia and missed big picture stuff. But at the same time, he was criticizing folks who went for the big gesture and didn't realize that truly revolutionary change requires a long, long commitment. Some of you are maybe familiar with this, the quote from Mahatma Gandhi that you must become the change that you want to see in the world. That's a long-term commitment. That requires a lot. And that's what, what Aaron was saying was real revolution is about, is making that change, making that total commitment. And so it's not one or the other. It's a matter of time. And things, change doesn't happen instantaneously, but it doesn't help people. I mean, Frederick Douglass said that nothing, power grants nothing without demand, or some words to that effect. You have to be confronting the problem, but you also